I want to tell you a true story about something that happened to me today. Something that, quite honestly, is pretty embarrassing. I run two small businesses and I work outside during the summer in the hot sun, and it's physical labor. And so I usually wear shorts in the summer, and I try to be budget conscious and get my shorts to last as long as possible. And I've got a few pairs that are 3 or 4 years old now, and I guess one of them had gotten a little bit thin because I was in the grocery store with my wife and I was shopping, and an employee at the grocery store came up to me and said, "Sir, I need to talk to you for a minute." And of course I'm going, "What? Why?" She looks around, makes sure the other customers are a decent amount of ways away, and she kind of lowers her voice a little bit and she says, "The back of your pants is ripped." And so I immediately stuck my hand back there and felt, and yeah, the material had gotten too thin, I guess, and it had just ripped at some point during the day, and I hadn't noticed. And of course, I was wearing underwear and you couldn't see any part of me, but anybody in the grocery store could see very clearly what color my underwear was. And my initial reaction was, how embarrassing. And I made my wife aware of the situation, and I ran out to the car and went home and changed my underwear and came back to the store and finished my shopping with my wife. Now, why do I tell you this story? Because God used it to tell me something. That girl could have not said anything to me about it, and I wouldn't have felt embarrassed. I wouldn't have known that I had walked around through the grocery store with the back of my pants ripped wide open. I wouldn't have been embarrassed, and yet it would have been a bad thing. Everybody in the grocery store would have seen me. Probably nobody would have said anything, and it would have been worse for me to walk through the entire grocery store and find out that my pants were ripped right at the end or after I got home, rather than this girl telling me about it shortly after I walked in the door. What does this have to do with God? This young girl showed an amazing amount of courage in telling me that those were ripped. And it did. It took courage to go up to a complete stranger and go, I'm sorry, sir, but your pants are ripped pretty badly. And it was an uncomfortable situation for both of us. She obviously didn't want to tell me that, and yet she did, because she knew that it would be a bad thing for me to walk around the store with my underwear hanging out. And she sacrificed her own comfort and stepped up and had the courage to tell me something that I needed to know, even though it was something that I really didn't want to know and she didn't really want to tell me. That young girl is the attitude that we need to have. And she wasn't too young. She's probably early 20s. She was an employee at the store. But she's the attitude that we need to have. We're too embarrassed to tell people about Jesus. We're too embarrassed to tell people things like homosexuality is wrong. We're too embarrassed to tell people that it's a sin to sleep with your girlfriend before you're married. We're too embarrassed to tell people that atheism is wrong and that God exists. We're too embarrassed to say a lot of things that people really need to know. We're too embarrassed to have uncomfortable conversations. We don't have the courage to have these uncomfortable conversations about something that really matters, the eternal destiny of our fellow human beings. And how much more is important? How much more important is it that I have the correct eternal destination than whether or not somebody sees a chunk of my underwear the size of a baseball? God, please give me the courage that young lady had to share with me that my pants were ripped, to share the gospel.